Thanks for tuning into KDIO. It is 1 o'clock, and this is 1350 KDIO, Ortonville, Minnesota, and Armada Media Station, as we get ready to roll with our radiothon to prevent child abuse in Big Stone County today. We have some guest speakers coming in to join us, and we want to thank our sponsors as well. Our sponsors for our event include the Dream for Kids team, Pro Image Partners, Ortonville Area Health Services, OK's Home Center, Knits Construction, The Hair Mechanic, KJ's Country Store, and S&D One Stop in Ortonville. Welcome to the Radiothon to prevent child abuse in Big Stone County as we get rolling for day 3 today. Things have been going pretty well here, but we're looking for some pledges, challenges, and donations. We have Cindy Nelson on the phones this afternoon. She'll be answering your calls at 839-2581, 839-2582, or toll-free 888-295-5346. Remember, for those donations of $40 or more, you're going to get a certificate for a free ultimate car wash from S&D One Stop in Ortonville. My co-host for today, I begged to have him back this year. Brent Olson is here. Hi, Brent.
Hi. I thought where you were going with things have gone pretty well, but I thought you were going to go. But today we have Brent with us, and it could be a long downhill slide.
I would not do that to you.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's not what you say when we're off the air.
Oh, you weren't supposed to bring that up. Anyway. Brent, would you please start us off today with the Dream for Kids mission statement?
The Dream for Kids mission statement is the organization is doing right every available moment for kids. Dream for Kids team is a group of individuals who have a unified dream for children in the Big Stone County area. A dream where all children are able to grow up in a family and community that cares for, supports, and protects them as they grow to become healthy, responsible, and productive adults.
Thank you very much. We start each of our programs with that mission statement, and Brent is a member of the Dream for Kids organization. How long have you been a member of that group?
I don't know, as long as it's been around, I think.
What made you decide to do that?
Several reasons. Karen Mack asked me to,
Okay.
and she's a hard woman to say no to. Number 2, I'm a dad. I've been a dad a long time, and you get those reflexes kind of buried in you, so your dad instincts kind of spread out further than you originally intended.
Okay.
And a third, from a total self-interest as a county commissioner. The healthier and safer and undamaged that our children are, the better the entire community is in every way, including the taxpayers. Because a healthy, happy, sane child who makes it to adulthood doesn't cost the taxpayer any money. There's no subtle way to put that. I was thinking the other day, I started working with kids when I was a kid. I started teaching Sunday school when I was 18.
Okay.
And now I'm 59, and it seems like every decade I've moved down a decade in taking care of kids. I mean, I started out running youth groups for 16, 17-year-olds. And this last year, the Dream for Kids helped fund a puppet show for, kindergarten and first graders. Because what you find is that you just need to move your target age younger and younger and younger in order to forestall some of this really traumatic damage that can occur. And so the younger we intervene, the healthier we make families, the more help we give families to kids at a younger age, the better it is for all of us.
Well said, Brent. As always. This man has a wonderful way with words. I wish I had the ability to write and express things the way you do. I really admire that.
Kind of my job.
I know that. Cindy Nelson is also a Dream for Kids member, and she's waiting for your phone calls this afternoon at 839-2581, 839-2582, or you can reach us toll free at 888-295-5346. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and that's what we're setting out to do. Now, you don't have to make a $40 donation if it doesn't fit in your budget. It doesn't matter what size your donation is. What matters is that you take the time to contribute and be a part of the solution in our community. We've had a lot of folks who have stepped up to the plate, and we sure appreciate their support. All of your donations stay local. They stay right here in Big Stone County and in Big Stone City to support those in our community. Last year, the Radiothon raised $4,621.43. That was distributed between the CGB School, the Ortonville School, Big Stone City School, and Big Stone County Family Services to start a mentoring program for kids in Big Stone County. That's where your money goes when you donate to the Dream for Kids Radiothon. And your checks can be made payable to Dream for Kids. Those donations are tax deductible. You can bring them into our studios right now and drop them off. That's absolutely fine. You can drop them off at S&D One Stop in Ortonville or drop them in the mail. And our address is 706 Southeast 2nd Street in Ortonville. You can also mail them to Dream for Kids. Their post office box is 338 in Ortonville. There are so many ways to contribute and be a part of the Radiothon, and so many ways that you can make a difference in the lives of those in and around your community. We had a little change up in our lineup for speakers this afternoon. Jim Gagner from the Big Stone City School was going to join us today, and he is ill, so he is not able to be here.
It's a bad day to be ill.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, that's not a good thing for him. But we do appreciate his support and everything he does over at the Big Stone City School System as well. Dr. Stacy Longnecker will be joining us, and Kate Schutz will also be joining us on our program today. We'll take a break. Call in your pledges. Call now. Keep Cindy busy.
That's right.
We want her working out there.
We do.
We'll be back in just a little bit.
KJ's Country Store in Clinton, Minnesota is open 7 days a week, and you'll find tasty burgers, roasted chicken, plus daily specials. Come try the best soft serve ice cream in the entire county. The food at KJ's is always prepared fresh with only the best ingredients. KJ's Country Store is most certainly the restaurant that just happens to sell gas. The friendly and courteous staff is dedicated to making each visit a pleasant and filling experience for you. Visit KJ's Country Store today in Clinton, Minnesota.
Nitz Construction is proud to support the Dream for Kids Radiothon. The ultimate goal at Nitz Construction is to deliver excellent projects for all of their clients. The entire staff at Nitz Construction believes in a team-oriented approach that brings all aspects of the process together, focusing on the end result. Nitz Construction has been in business since 1999, licensed and insured in Minnesota and South Dakota. Contact Nitz Construction, 320-305-1550 for a free estimate today.
Mark your calendar for Monday, April 14th. It is the 5th annual Dream for Kids Walk and Candlelight Vigil for the prevention of child abuse. If you're able to join the walk, it will begin in front of the Clinton School at 5:30, or you can meet at the Memorial Building in Clinton, where a free meal will be served, sponsored by the Loyal Order of the Moose Lodge number 407. Allison Fay, Program Coordinator for the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center and National Child Protection Training Center, will be speaking on Hope is a Verb. Our hope that children will grow up safe and strong needs to be supported by our actions. We must be proactive and positive in building a world worthy of our children. The CGB Honors Society Students and Early Childhood Initiative will provide supervised children's activities during Allison's talk. The candle lighting ceremony will end the event. Please plan to attend on Monday, April 14th. Kids are depending on all of us. Welcome back to our Radiothon to prevent child abuse in Big Stone County. Brent Olson is along with me this afternoon as a co-host for our program, and I do want to thank him for being here.
It's my pleasure.
And we are joined by our first guest this afternoon on our program, too. We want to thank very much Ortonville Area Health Services for being a sponsor of the Radiothon, but also for having their medical staff contribute to the program as well. Dr. Stacy Longnecker joins us in the studios.
Hello.
Hi,
Thanks
how are
for
you?
having me. Doing very well. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
Have to be on a day like today.
Right. It's beautiful.
It is. Dr. Stacy is going to share with us some information about shaken baby syndrome. And I'm sure, as all of us know, raising a child is a roller coaster of emotions. From happy to frustrating to sad to you name it. It's got it all.
Exactly.
And sometimes the littlest ones are the ones who are the victims of someone else's frustration.
Yep, that's exactly right. One thing I always kind of like to say to parents and people that I'm talking to about this, I always say, you know, if you talk to anybody who has had a child, who's had a newborn, and that person tells you that there was never a time that they felt overwhelmed or frustrated, that they're lying. Everybody at some point feels that way. And, you know, it's hard enough in people where, you know, it's a two-parent home and they've got maybe family and lots of support and community members that they know. You know, it's difficult enough in that situation. But unfortunately, you know, not everybody is in that situation. And we have single-parent homes and, you know, people who don't have a lot of help and support. And sometimes it can be even more frustrating in those situations when you don't have people to help you. And so this is something that, you know, I see a lot. I deliver a lot of babies at Ortonville Area Health Services. I see a lot of families after they've had babies, and I feel that this is a very important thing to be talking to people about. And so that's kind of why I decided to talk about this subject today. And so shaken baby syndrome is something that I think we've all heard of, you know, to some degree. Although the other thing that I'll mention is, for whatever reason, it's now being called abusive head trauma. And I think the reason they're changing the terminology is more to kind of encompass not just specifically shaken baby syndrome, but other things that can happen as a result of non-accidental trauma or child abuse. And so I may use those two phrases interchangeably, but essentially they mean the same thing. And when I was just kind of reading up about some of this, you know, I found that abusive head trauma is the most common cause of death as a result of child abuse in children under the age of 12 months. And so obviously I think it is something that's very important to be talking about. Another statistic I found is that, you know, 40% of deaths from child abuse is from this type of injury, from a shaken baby type of injury. And that right now, or at least as of 2 years ago, the estimated number was 2,000 deaths per year. Now, again, that's not saying that's how many instances, that's saying that's how many children on average die from shaken baby syndrome every year. And of course, this is also going to underestimate the number because not all cases of shaken baby syndrome can be diagnosed as that either. And so that's kind of an underestimate. And then one last statistic I have here, that 95% of serious head injury in kids under 12 months is from child abuse. That's 95% of head injuries, which to me is just an amazing number. And so, I mean, again, that just kind of tells us that this is a very important thing to be talking about. And then I just kind of found some history stuff, too, that I wanted to talk about because I think it's interesting. It's not too long, so I don't want to bore people, but I was looking back, and the first kind of publications come from the 1930s, actually, when physicians were documenting children that would come in with kind of these vague symptoms, no signs of, you know, external injury, no bruising, no things like that, but some neurologic deficit, not acting normally. And that back as far as then, they believed that that was probably from this type of an injury. And of course, they didn't have all the ways to diagnose it at that time, but a lot of investigation started then. And then through the years, you know, they started to see kids that had these injuries also having some bone fractures and some other associated things. And it was actually in 1972 that Dr. Caffey is his name, and he first kind of termed this shaken baby syndrome. and started putting out, publications about this and the common, injuries with this and what we see, and really trying to urge public awareness of this and educate people about it. And so, this has been, a problem for quite some time. And I think, unfortunately, it's really been something that most recently has really just become something that we're really working on. And the other thing that I would like to say is, it is also one of these things, shaken baby syndrome is something that in general, it causes significant head trauma, head brain injury, bleeding into the brain. And that obviously can cause a lot of long-term problems for children. And the estimated number right now is that 1/3 of children die as a result of this. 1/3 become severely disabled, and 1/3 just have minor, cognitive, motor, or visual abnormalities. And so again, this is something that, if we can find a way to help educate, help prevent this, I think that, we would be significantly improving child abuse in general, the number of children that are abused. And then the other thing that I found interesting was it's been documented that as many as 60% of children who come in with shaken baby or some sort of abusive head trauma, when reviewing their charts, 60% of the time those kids have been in with an injury before that in hindsight they recognize was probably an abusive situation as well. And so, again, if we can try to help early on, I just think that we can really make a big difference with that. And again, that's why I chose, this topic. So the next thing is, how do we prevent this? What do we do? How do we make a difference? And I think, of course, in the healthcare field, it's very important for us because, we are seeing parents first after they have babies. And there was actually several years ago, it was implemented that hospitals did a program at hospital discharge for parents with videos on shaken baby syndrome, explaining it, that sort of thing. And they found after that there was a 47% decrease in the number of inflicted head injuries for newborns, which I think is so good that even something so small as that can make such a big difference. And, other people might say, well, what can you do if you're not in the healthcare, as community members, as family members? And what I would say is, we all know, anyone who's had a child knows how difficult it can be to have a newborn. Like I said, myself having my son, and like I said, I was in a good situation, married, both my families were living here. I had a lot of support, and it was still very challenging for me. And I think
a lot of that is even in the sleep deprivation and the change of schedules, and just the fact that all of a sudden you have this big responsibility and you're not prepared for it.
Right.
And it used to be, and not that long ago, it used to be that, we weren't as mobile as we are now. And there were more intact families. Mm-hmm. And so you had everyone, of course, it is a massive responsibility, but that responsibility used to be shared a little wider. Yeah. And so, you could just go, Mom, I'm going to snap. Will you watch the baby today?
Yeah.
And, maybe now your mom lives 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
And that's, so as a community, as a person in the community, if you know a new parent, if you just say, you want me to watch the baby for an hour so you can take a nap, or you want me to do a load of laundry so that you're not seeing 12 other things that you should be doing while you're trying to get the kid to go to sleep. Yep.
That's exactly right.
The exhaustion and the frustration level can just be so immense. And of course, there's no excuse for abuse. But if we can mitigate it, if we can take away some of the factors that make it a possibility, we're just all so much better off.
That's exactly right. And, I've had people say to me, I don't understand how that can happen. I don't understand what a newborn baby can do to make somebody hurt them. And, what I try to say to people is, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to shake my baby today. People don't plan to do this. It's, one of the biggest risk factors is a baby that cries a lot. And I know that sounds, what baby doesn't cry a lot? That's what babies do. They cry. That's how they let us know what they need. But like you're saying, in a sleep-deprived person who doesn't have a lot of help and resources, sometimes that can just really wear on somebody. And like you said, it's the snap. I wasn't planning on it, but it just happened. And so what can we do to help with that? And I would agree with you as community members, in church, anywhere where somebody who has a newborn, even just to talk to them. How are things going? How are you feeling? Because the other thing is, I think a lot of times new parents don't want to feel like failures. Right. If they feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm feeling this way. I don't want to tell anybody I'm feeling this way because it makes me a bad parent, or it means I'm not able to have a baby, or, things like that. And that's not true, because everybody goes through it. And so just being there for people and supporting them and getting people to talk about it. Because I think the more you can talk about it, ask for help, that helping people with that is so important.
Absolutely. Can you share with us a little bit more information about what actually happens when you shake a baby?
Sure.
What's going on inside?
Yep. So, they kind of talk about in any of the medical literature that you'll look at, it's the acceleration and deceleration forces behind shaking a baby. And so there's certain classic kind of characteristics that go along with it. First of all, usually the baby is kind of grasped underneath or around the ribs. And then shaken in that position. And so the most common things that you'll see from the back and forth shaking is you're going to see the bleeding inside the baby's brain. The other things that you can see, there's something called retinal hemorrhages, and that's bleeding behind the baby's eyes. And that's kind of why I was talking about, visual impairments as a significant complication of shaken baby as well. And then you can see sometimes liver injuries. I've seen that too, from where the baby is grasped and squeezed while they're shaken, and then rib fractures. Those are kind of the common things that all go together. And again, it's something that it happens very quickly, and that's where I think it's so important for prevention.
How about spinal injuries? Depending on the age of the child, of course, but...
Yep. There was some discussion about that, about neck injuries. And that's something that, there was kind of some research being done about that, and it was found that it's not a significant injury with this, but it has been documented in some cases.
Is this something that you have personal experience with?
I have. I did my residency in St. Paul, and actually there was one night when I was on call, and I don't know what was going on that night, but we actually admitted 5 children with child abuse in one night, which was, like I said, almost unheard of even in St. Paul for one night call shift. But there was one child that night that I admitted, and then here, since I've been here, my second year in practice here, I had a case that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Well, if you know someone who has a child and you know of a way you can help them, it's always welcome, I think, as a parent, to have some backup. And one of the ways you can help people in your community right now would be to call our Radiothon, 839-2581, 839-2582, or toll free 888-295-5346, and show your support for the Dream for Kids and their mission to prevent child abuse, as it does happen right here where we live. As we just heard Dr. Stacy say, she had a case here herself that she had to work with. So I didn't mean to get you off the track. You were talking about how community members can help. What else did you have to add?
No, you know what? That actually was it. I think Brent helped a lot when he was kind of talking about that too. Just education, support, talking about things, and also I think people understanding that it is very prevalent. Another thing, when I was coming here almost 6 years ago now, I was in St. Paul, and I remember when I was leaving there and coming here, I was thinking, I just can't wait to get back to Ortonville, to Big Stone County, where, I'm not going to see this type of stuff all the time. And then I get out here, and it's very common here too. But, growing up here in a very loving, supportive family who I feel like I was probably sheltered from some of these things. And I also feel like at that time, things weren't talked about as much as they are now. And I think, this program has helped with that tremendously. And I do think that's important, like I said, for the awareness and the education and getting people to understand that it's okay to have frustrations, but teaching them how to deal with that in the correct way, in the right way, and getting the help that they need.
Absolutely.
And I think it's okay when, as a community member, if you have if you know a young parent, and if you can just said, you know what, I've been there. I mean, my kids used to drive me crazy. And I was so lucky in that I was able to just step back and someone else was going to step in just for a brief time, so people know. I mean, so people know they're not monsters. That
Exactly.
they're frustrated and fed up and angry and disturbed. That they know that those are perfectly human feelings. It's unacceptable to act on them.
Exactly.
And so people know, we're all kind of in the same boat, and we all need to help each other. There's only 5,000 people live in Big Stone County. We can all help each other. We can do this.
And it starts right here with the Radiothon. It doesn't matter what size your pledge is. It doesn't matter what size you can donate. I mean, that's not what we're about here. We're not saying we're only taking calls for $100 or more. No, that's not it. We want you to be a part of this, because what is the cost to the county to have to support these folks who end up being abusers themselves? You know, I'm sure the statistics on that are huge.
Well, they're incredible. The figure that sticks in my head, because, I see these figures in terms of a budgetary stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. If you have a child who grows up with significant difficulties and their family can't handle them, the first figure that comes to mind is it costs $7,000 a month to have a child in therapeutic foster care. And that lasts typically years.
Yep.
And years. That's an incredible amount of money that the taxpayers have to pay. And the loss of human potential, the loss of the joy of having a functioning member of the society. I mean, the money is immense, and the money is the tiniest fraction of the costs that we all pay.
That's right.
And we can do this. Every one of you, I know every one of the people listening, if they saw a child, if they witnessed a child being hurt, would step in. If you saw a child walking out in front of a semi, you'd leap out in the street and pull them back. Everyone listening would do that. You would. You might not be able to see the semi. You might not know for sure that the semi is coming, but you can look at a new parent and you can sense the frazzle and you can sense the frustration, and you can step in just as easily. And that's all it takes, is I do something. It just must make my family crazy. But like when we're walking through a grocery store or a mall or something like that, and if I see a frazzled parent, I'll say something like, "Oh, gee, what a beautiful child," and I
Do the parents look at you with fire coming out of their eyes?
occasionally,
At that point?
occasionally, but I don't let that stop me. I go, my baby is 30 years old now, and this doesn't last forever, and you miss it when it's gone, and I hope you enjoy it while it's going on.
Dr. Stacy, thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
in today.
Thanks for having me. And like I said, thank you for doing this. I mean, the Dream for Kids organization, everyone involved with it is amazing, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We do want to thank our sponsors. Of course, Ortonville Area Health Services is on that list, along with the Dream for Kids team, Pro Image Partners, OK's Home Center, Knits Construction, The Hair Mechanic, KJ's Country Store, and S&D One Stop in Ortonville, offering a free ultimate car wash for any donation over the amount of $40. And I think Cindy is slacking. Well, not by choice. Not by choice, no. But we need to get these phones ringing, and we want to hear them ringing because we want you to support our citizens in our community. This money is not going anywhere except right here in Big Stone County and Big Stone City, and it takes your support to make a difference.
And we appreciate every tiny fraction of the support
We
that
do.
comes this way.
Absolutely. 839-2581, 839-2582, or toll free 888-295-5346. That's the sound I wanted to hear. Did you hear the phone ring?
Yep.
Awesome. We will be back with more on our Radiothon, and I should mention, we will join the Twins game in progress following our Radiothon today. So we'll cover all the bases for you. Literally.
Literally.
We'll be back.
S&D One Stop of Ortonville continues to work to make our store the place you enjoy coming to. This is why we have the need for another team member to join the team. That's right, we are growing once again. This time we have a full-time opening in our food service area for the position of manager. You will oversee the food service area of Hot Stuff Pizza and Eddie Peppers, including but not limited to hiring and training of our staff, inventory controls, small amount of paperwork and reporting, no previous food experience needed, but a desire to learn and teach, have an organized nature, and a leadership skills. Apply today at the Ortonville S&D One Stop.
Pro Image Partners. Pro Image Partners. So many reasons why you can turn to us. We'll help you show your pride. You want the best for work or play? We're your one-stop image shop. We'll help you show your pride. ProImagePartners.com.
Back to our Radiothon to prevent child abuse in Big Stone County. And we went out in the front office during the break there and picked up the pledge sheet so far from today. Brent, what have we got on there?
So far, we've heard from Naomi Ballard and family, Tammy and Scott Meyer, OAHS co-workers.
She challenges them. That's it.
Oh, there we go. Isaiah and Stacy Longnecker, Cindy Nelson, Liz Sorensen, and Becky and Randy Stallman.
OAHS employees, you have been challenged. So
The gauntlet has been thrown.
it has.
Does one still throw gauntlets?
Probably.
Okay. The gauntlet has been flung.
All right. That sounds good. Just so it didn't hit anybody in the process. We do want to thank all of those folks. And if you want to pledge your support to end child abuse in Big Stone County, it's as easy as picking up your phone.
You can call 839-2581, 839-2582, or call toll-free at 888-295-5346.
You can drop your donations off here at our KDIO studios. You can mail them to KDIO. You can mail them to Dream for Kids at Post Office Box 338. And you can also drop them off at S&D One Stop in Ortonville. We are out to make a difference. That's what this is all about. And we want to help those in our community. Someone who I had the pleasure of meeting recently is joining us in the studios this afternoon. And Brent, I think you know her. Would you like to introduce her?
This is Kate Schutz. She works for Greater Minnesota. She's my daughter.
Isn't that awesome?
It's really swell that she and her husband both were able to find jobs in this area. And I think she's terrific at what she does.
I've heard that from other people, too.
And she does really very valuable work. It makes me as a father immensely proud.
Wow.
How about that, Kate?
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I had the pleasure not too long ago of meeting Kate, and she introduced me to Greater Minnesota Family Services. I knew nothing about them or the services that they offered to this area. But will you talk a little bit with us about Greater Minnesota Family Services and what you do?
Sure. Greater Minnesota Family Services is all over the state of Minnesota. We've got offices in lots of different places. And what we try to do is provide counseling for families. We like to give people tools to make their family run smoothly. We work through school systems and in conjunction with counties and sometimes independently. We offer in-home family counseling, school counseling, early childhood education programs in some areas, and lots of other good stuff.
Okay. You and your husband both work for this agency.
Yes.
So what areas do you two have in our county?
My husband, Nathan, is the counselor in the Clinton-Graceville School District. And I work as an in-home family counselor, so all of Big Stone County.
Wow. So how long have you done this?
Not for that long. We got our jobs in late November, So we're pretty new to the agency, but Greater Minnesota Family Services has been in Big Stone County, I think, for, 2 years?
Several years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a county thing.
No, the main organization is actually in Wilmer.
Yes. Yep. It's a private nonprofit company. So.
Okay. How many counselors and therapists approximately work with Greater Minnesota Family Services?
I think the last time I heard it was maybe around 160.
Really? That's statewide?
Statewide, yeah. And in Big
Wow.
Stone County, we have 4.
Okay. That's still not a lot of counselors to reach all the families in Big Stone County, though.
We have a pretty extensive caseload between
I
the 4
bet.
of us, and
bet you
considering
do.
the population, we were kind of surprised, but it's good. We're getting to know a lot of people and getting to do a lot of good things, I think.
Well, I'd like to have you talk with us a little bit about some things that families can do if they're having troubles, if there's a rough road and maybe they're thinking in the back of their minds, yeah, I could use some help, but I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to ask. What would you say to them?
There's a lot of different ways you can reach out for help. First of all, you just need to know that you can. We see problems the most with people who don't get help when they need it. So really, when people are asking for help, everyone's very willing to work with them. You can contact the county and they could put you in touch with Greater Minnesota. You could go through the school system. We get a lot of referrals for them. You could go directly to the Greater Minnesota website and go through that way and refer yourself for services. So you could go any of those routes. But the main thing is just to realize that people want to help you if they know that you need help.
When you're meeting with students in the school districts, what are some things that kids are concerned about?
They're concerned a lot about the relationships in their families. There's a lot of things that kids don't understand necessarily. A lot of times there's communication problems and they don't feel understood. And that's difficult because parents and kids, they love each other so much, but when they're not communicating effectively, it causes so many problems. And I think that's the biggest concern we hear from kids and parents. They both have valid concerns and nobody knows exactly how to address them, and it just ends up just magnifying whatever problems there are.
So how do you work with them? How do you teach them the communication skills that they need?
We do a lot of work on communication skills by just role playing. And a lot of times I'll go into families and, we listen and see what's going on and say, you can say that. That's a good thing to say. However, can we say it this way instead? Because I think then you're going to understand each other better. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, people aren't going to listen if you're yelling. When you yell, people's ears turn off and they get defensive and they get scared and they get upset. So sometimes it's just a matter of saying, say that, but in a nice tone of voice so that they know that you love them and that you're not trying to be mean, and then they're going to listen better.
Okay. Do you think that for some kids it's really hard to open up about their feelings?
I think for a lot of kids it's really hard because
I think for adults it's hard.
It is. It's hard for everyone. And I think that people always think that they're the only ones who feel that way. And we find that, the problems are really pretty common throughout all families. And all families have things that they need to work on. All families get frustrated with each other. All families get angry. And we just need to realize that there's ways to handle those things, and there's ways to deal with it that help.
How long have you actually been a counselor?
Well, I started as a counselor at the South Dakota Developmental Center, and I was there for 7 years. So
Okay. So what did you do there? I mean, what kinds of things did you work with?
At the Developmental Center, it's basically kids with dual diagnosis, mental illness, and developmental disabilities. So it might be somebody who has Down syndrome and fetal alcohol syndrome and post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's a pretty challenging group of kids, but even with those kids who have those tremendous problems to overcome, things are fixable. We can work on stuff. We can give people skills, and if they're willing to use those skills, then we can overcome a lot of difficulties.
So
I'm just sitting here thinking, isn't she swell?
think you're biased.
I was wondering if you had a question for her.
The question I would have would be, you have these kids with the problems, and you have the families with the problems. I mean, if there's problems, usually they extend in every direction.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're working with a family, how hard is it to get people to step back and think and agree that maybe the problem isn't just with their child?
Sometimes that's hard. Parents always, they love their kids so much and they try so hard to do what's best. So I think that sometimes that can be really hard to hear that, this thing that you've been doing that your parents did, that your grandparents did, it's not helpful and it's maybe damaging. So sometimes that can be really difficult to hear. I think that often once we get over that and once people are willing to try it a different way, they can see that it can work. But I think initially there's a lot of resistance to that challenging of nobody wants to feel like they've done something to hurt their kids.
I think, too, all children are so different. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean they're uniquely different. And what works with one child may not work with another one. And that could be children in the same household.
Absolutely.
Those personalities are just so different sometimes.
We have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
A story I love to tell is years ago when they were all still in the house. I talked to someone who was working on a giant crane. He was getting paid $100 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was a huge amount of money. And I told our son about this, and he did the math, and he went, I could make $250,000 a year. And I told one daughter about it, and she said, she did the math, and she said, I'd only have to work an hour a day. And I told our youngest daughter, who went on to become a theater major, and I told her the same story, and she looked at me, she says, why in the world would I want to run a giant crane no matter how much it paid?
See?
Same parents, same house, same upbringing, same everything, and 3 completely different approaches. And
Absolutely.
I think that's more often than not.
Yep.
So as a parent, you try something that works with your oldest kid, and maybe it's just not the right thing to do with the next one that comes along or the youngest one that comes along.
But it's hard as a parent to get past that barrier.
It is, yeah.
Because this worked before.
Right.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it work now?
And parents, we talked about that before. Parents can feel alone, and they can be frustrated, and they can be fed up, and they've got, they're worried about money, and they're worried about jobs, and there's time, and there's so many demands,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just this immense frustration level that can build up. And like he said, you need tools. And if you've never been handed the proper tool, it can be hard to do it right.
That's right.
I mean, if you're building a house with a broken hammer and a dull saw, it's not going to be a very good house.
That's right.
You need the right tools. And here in this county, there's people available who can help you with those tools.
Kate's one of them.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Here I am.
How can folks get in touch with Greater Minnesota Family Services if they need more information?
You can go to the website, greaterminnesota.org, I think. And you can go there. You can contact Big Stone County Social Services. They could help you get in touch with us. You could go through your school system. Ortonville has a counselor as well. I do some work in the Big Stone School, and there's also the counselor in Clinton and Graceville School, so you're covered no matter where you are. And those ways are probably the easiest.
All right. And I know there probably aren't a lot of kids listening right now because of the time of day that this airs, but if kids need some advice, if they need some help, some direction with something, do you have something to say to them?
I think the biggest thing that kids need to remember is that there are people out there who want to help them. And sometimes it can be embarrassing. Sometimes they can feel like people won't understand. But, we were all kids once, and we all went through those things, and people want to help them. We're here, so we're easy to find.
All right. Thank you, Kate.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Kate is with Greater Minnesota Family Services, and they're just one of the organizations in our community that can help prevent child abuse by helping families. And what I thought was so awesome about them is they actually come to you. You don't have to drive to Wilmer or Sioux Falls or Fergus Falls or wherever it might be. These folks come to your house.
It's a terrific service. I mean, it's a commitment by the schools and by the school collaborative and by the county and by Greater Minnesota. It's a commitment, but it's worth it because we can see the value. We can see the worth of it because everyone needs, at some point or another, everybody needs a little something. They really do.
Yeah.
It's not those people. It just isn't.
Yeah.
It's everyone at some point in their life can use a hand.
That's right. And you can offer a hand to some of those folks by calling right now and talk to Cindy Nelson at 839-2581, 839-2582, or toll free 888-295-5346 and pledge your support. Ortonville Area Health Services team, you've been challenged. And Tanny Myers set it out there for you. So if you have an opportunity to give us a call, that's great. We had some other challenges this week too, and I would have to go grab the sheets to see who those all were because I am forgetting. I don't have those in front of me, but we can get that information. But you know what? It doesn't have to be a challenge. Just do it.
Just call. What the hey?
Yeah. We'll be back to wrap it up after these words. Lee at the Hair Mechanic is a proud supporter of the Dream for Kids Radiothon. Lee specializes in making men, women, and children look fabulous with traditional and trendy cuts and styles. The Hair Mechanic is located on Main Street of Ortonville and is proud to offer the latest styles in hair fashion for the entire family. So whether you're in need of a simple cut, maybe it's a shampoo, coloring, or style, Lee has the skill set to have you feeling confident with how you look. The Hair Mechanic, Main Street, Ortonville. It's time to enjoy your cuts and styles again. It can be overwhelming buying a new washer. It may help you to know that the new Maytag Bravos XL laundry pair is rated #1 by consumers. OK's Home Center customers are very pleased with the new features, the extra large capacity, the small agitator, a top load with window. Plus, you'll notice a big difference in your water bill. For more amazing features to the Maytag Bravos XL, stop at OK's Home Center and let Tom tell you he's been selling and repairing Maytag for years. He agrees with the consumers. This is a great product. OK's Home Center in Ortonville. Ask about the matching dryer.
At Ortonville Area Health Services, you are as special to us as your new little one about to enter the world. That's why we offer childbirth education classes to better educate and prepare you for your labor and delivery experience. We are also proud that we provide one-on-one nursing care while you are here in labor. The Ortonville Area Health Services healthcare team is excited to be a part of your special time in your lives. Call 839-6157 to get started in planning and preparing for your baby.
We're back to wrap up today's Radiothon, Day 3, Year 2 of the Radiothon to prevent child abuse.
You know what I find fascinating about this?
What is that,
the
Brent?
people who come in here and no one is yearning to be on the radio.
You know, I hear that a lot from people.
But they come here because they think it matters. They're willing to do it because they want to do their part. And even though it makes them uncomfortable and they're going, oh, I'm no good on the radio, I hate doing this, but they're here. They're here and they're giving it their best shot because it's something that matters.
That is exactly why I wanted you here to co-host this program, because you're so good at that. You just are. Coming up tomorrow on our Radiothon, we will be joined by Jessie Haas from the Ortonville School. She is the counselor there. Pastor John Reagan will be here tomorrow. He is with a child protection team. I think it's a county-wide team, but he'll tell us more about that when he comes tomorrow. Friday, we will talk with Dr. Susan Anderson from Ortonville Area Health Services, and from the CGB School, Jamie Wall, their counselor, will be joining us on Friday. In the meantime, there are so many ways that you can support families in our community, and it can be as simple as a phone call, dropping your donation in the mail, bringing it to the radio station, or dropping it off at S&D One Stop in Ortonville. And what do you have for final thoughts today, Brent?
Just the donations are wonderful, and they're like a visible manifestation of people's concern. But, you know, if you smile at a frazzled parent, if you stop over and say, you want me to watch the kids while you take a nap or go run some errands, if you help out, if you drop a card or a phone number off to someone who might need some, if you just reach out, you know, there aren't that many of us, and we all know each other, and we're not all related, but we might just as well be. Mm-hmm. So we can help. We're a family, and we can help each other out.
Thanks a lot, Brent. Appreciate it. And we appreciate our sponsors too: Ortonville Area Health Services, Dream for Kids, Pro Image Partners, OK's Home Center, Knits Construction, The Hair Mechanic, S&D One Stop in Ortonville as well. Thanks to Cindy Nelson on the phones with us this afternoon. Thanks to Brent for coming in as well. And thanks to our guests today, Dr. Stacy Longnecker and Kate Schutz joined us on our program. So we want to thank all of them. And please tune in again tomorrow for the Radiothon to prevent child abuse in Big Stone County.